Hey, quick question. What object eats one out of every 7 trees America cuts down? Not houses, not paper. Guess again. It is a flat wooden square. You have walked past thousands of them and never once looked down. The shipping pallet. Right now, billions of these things are moving through the world, carrying pretty much everything you own. Yes, everything. And here is the wild part. This boring piece of wood has a war record, a real one. It fed starving armies, helped win the Pacific, made one Navy officer famous, and accidentally built a business empire in Australia. Sounds impossible? Stick around. Because in 1941, nobody believed a wooden square could matter either. This is the story of the most important object nobody has ever noticed. And it starts with your arms. Imagine you are a dock worker before the war. Your job? Lift boxes. All day. One at a time. By hand. That is how humanity moved everything. For all of history. Every crate, every barrel, every sack of flour. Human arms. Now fast forward. April 1942. The Philippines. Thousands of American and Filipino soldiers surrender at Bataan, starving and sick. Thinly said it, Flim. Why? Their food supply chain collapsed. The army simply could not move supplies fast enough to reach them. Meanwhile, the Atlantic turned into a graveyard. German submarines sank over 6 million tons of Allied shipping in 1942 alone. Do the math. Every lost ship meant supplies gone forever. Every slow day in port, more time exposed to torpedoes. The real bottleneck was not the ocean. It was the docks, loose boxes and barrels, loaded by hand, one by one. It was slow. It was brutal. It smashed the cargo. And the workers themselves were being drafted away to fight. Now here is the crazy part. The solution already existed. It had been collecting dust for nearly 20 years. The wooden pallet, invented back in 1925. The forklift truck grew up right alongside it. But labor was cheap and money was tight, so nobody cared. When war began, America had only about 25,000 forklifts. Suddenly, labor was scarce and time was deadly. So the military finally asked, what if nobody had to lift anything? The Office of the Quartermaster General sent investigators into private factories to study the smartest cargo handling in the country. Their verdict? Unanimous. Forklift trucks plus pallets, the most efficient system available for handling packaged supplies. Period. The idea is almost insultingly simple. Stack your goods on a wooden platform once, then never touch them again. A forklift slides its steel forks into the pallet, and boom! An entire stack of cargo lifts in one motion. What used to take a crew of men hours of heavy lifting? Now, one driver does it in minutes. By 1942, palletized transport was spreading through American military depots and ports at astonishing speed. Loading times? Down. Cargo damage? Way down. Ships spent less time in port, which meant less time as submarine bait. The Army's own historian later called it the most significant and revolutionary storage development of the entire war. But, hold on. The pallet's biggest test was not the Atlantic. It was waiting on the other side of the planet. Because in the Pacific, America's whole strategy depended on doing one thing faster than the enemy believed possible. Island hopping. Grab an island. Build a base. Jump to the next one. Across thousands of miles of open ocean. Every jump meant unloading mountains of supplies onto beaches that barely existed. Speed was not part of the plan. Speed was the plan. Pallets proved crucial to that need for speed. Some historians call this the first war where logistics beat strategy. Forklifts in military service? From about 10,000 in 1939 to over 60,000 by the end. And here comes our famous officer. A young Navy supply man named Norman Connors spotted the flaw everyone else missed. Early pallets only let a forklift in from two sides. Inside a cramped ship's hold, that wasted precious space and time. So Connors helped develop the four-way pallet, a platform a forklift could grab from any direction at all. Tiny change, right? Multiply it across every dock, every hold, every beachhead. It saves staggering amounts of time. I'm Slurv, had all ever but two spies from Kiltaply. The Navy commended him for saving taxpayers millions of dollars and thousands of man-hours. He later became a publishing magnate. Then 1945 arrived. The war ended, and America did something careless that would echo for 80 years. All across the Pacific, the military just went home. Shipping the equipment back? Too expensive. Not worth it. In Australia, they left behind an enormous pool of gear, 60,000 pallets and 1,000 machines, including forklifts and cranes. The Australians had watched American palletized logistics with their jaws on the floor. Most of their cargo still moved by hand. So the Australian government made a move. It took ownership of the abandoned pool and gave it a name. The Commonwealth Handling Equipment Pool, CHEP, a government agency built entirely out of America's wartime leftovers. And instead of selling the pallets, CHEP rented them, collected them back, repaired them, rented them again, forever. In 1958, a company called Brambles bought the whole pool. Funny thing, they mostly wanted the cranes and forklifts. The pallets were a bonus. That little bonus became the largest pallet rental business on the entire planet. Today, those famous blue pallets circulate through roughly 60 countries. The pool, about 348 million platforms. An empire of rented wood. Born from Equipment 1 Army abandoned on a dock in 1945. Which brings us back to that weird number from the beginning. Remember? 1 out of every 7 trees. 12 to 15% of all American lumber goes into pallets. That is your answer. That is how big this got. Because after the war, veterans carried palletized logistics into civilian factories, warehouses, and ports across the whole world. Warehouses were redesigned around the pallet. Truck beds, loading docks, even store shelves were all sized to fit it. Look around your room right now. Nearly everything you see spent part of its life riding one of these wooden squares. One historian called it possibly the single most important and under-recognized object in the global economy, second only to the shipping container. Think about that. A weapon of war that never fired a shot. It just carried things faster than anyone thought wood could. So next time you pass a stack of pallets behind a supermarket, stop for a second. Look at them properly. You are looking at the machine that fed armies, crossed the Pacific, and quietly built the modern world under your feet. Oh, and that shipping container it shares the crown with? Its story is even stranger. Way stranger. A stubborn trucking magnate. A bankrupt idea. A steel box that cracked globalization wide open. That is next time. See you there.